And now, Deborah Kobylt Live.
Hi, everybody, and thank you so much for joining us today on Deborah Kobylt Live. We've got a terrific guest in her studio today, joining us, Lisa Gache, author
Hello,
of
everyone.
author of Beverly Hills Manners, Golden Rules from the World's Most Glamorous Zip Code. And you don't have to live in Beverly Hills to benefit from all that Lisa has to tell us about. Thank you for being here, Lisa.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited, Deborah, to
I
be
am
here
too,
from my new studio.
I know, right? I mean, it's a challenge, right? And by the way, the flowers are lovely.
Thank you.
They look terrific. So much
cheerful
to talk about right now in this day and age of COVID, where everyone is Zooming, Skyping, or whatever it is that they're doing. You also have lots of tips for what people should be doing. We're going to get into that. But first, because I want to make sure I mention at the top of the show, what you're doing currently that you have for kids, which is something called Dinner with Lisa, right? For kids, it's 2 nights a week.
Yes. We've literally had a pivot, and that seems to be a word that a lot of people are using in terms of how we're presenting our business, because I think a lot of people look at Manners as something, and I definitely marketed Manners as something that was an interpersonal experience. And so now with COVID, we've had to move everything online and provide sort of the equivalent virtually. And so I thought, what is the thing that people come to us most for? What is the thing that people mostly associate with Manners? And ding, 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 most people think of dining skills, right? And so then I thought, well, there's so many parents that are just overwhelmed with having to figure out, homeschooling their children, and boy, they needed a break. So I said to myself, dinners with Lisa, just, prepare a meal, prop your child up with a computer, and then the adults can go have some quiet time for an hour while I work with the kids and, make sure they have these fabulous dining skills. And we do this 2 times a week.
I love this. How old are they?
It really is any age. We started I try and keep it about 6 years and up. And I really say for all ages, but as long as a child can maneuver with a fork and knife, which we say is about ages 6 and up. So it's been wonderful. And then I just wanted to add that we offered something also for adults, because I felt like I've been hearing a lot of issues, now that husbands and wives are dining together at home on the daily, right? And there's a lot of nitpicking going on. And so I'm doing something for adults as well, who are really finding it to be very informative and fun.
Is this a nice way to talk about a napkin, to say, oh, did you want a napkin? Like, is that the nice thing to do when someone doesn't remember a napkin? I'm just curious. Is that the way to do it?
Absolutely. Here's the thing with Manners. While I say that these are vital life skills that everybody needs to know, not everybody is open to this information. So I find that the best way to digest it all is with a dose of humor. So humor and just keeping it light and laughing and smiling and making it fun for people, because otherwise, literally, I will find myself, I'll meet somebody at a party and they'll say, so not necessarily what do you do, but something like that type of question. And then I'll start to explain, and their eyes literally roll back into their head, because that's what happens when people think of the word Manners.
Well, they're either intimidated as heck, or they're thinking, please God, come to my home tomorrow, right?
Yes. Intimidation, I would say, a little embarrassment, especially, it's so much easier to send your children to something like this versus being an adult and sort of admitting, maybe I don't know that. But that's why I love working with adults, because it's so much fun, and you can just dive deeper. And it really makes a huge difference for literally anyone, any age.
I took my 3 sons to, oh my gosh, what's it called? I'm suddenly forgetting and having a brain freeze. Oh my gosh, cotillion.
A restaurant. Yes.
Cotillion. When they were younger, they were, to this day, I have to hear about it. And the one thing that they did was they had them learn to dance properly, slow dance, but they would pair them with, my kid would be like 8. They would pair them with a 14-year-old, and the girl was 6 feet and he was like up to her waist. So to this day, I get reamed out about that when they're like, why did you make us do that? I'm like, I didn't know you were going to dance, because to your point, I think one of the most valuable skills is to learn how to just eat properly. The knife and fork to use, maybe the proper glass, what to do with your napkin and your fork. I mean, to me, those are life skills that will never do you wrong. But I want to talk about one other thing. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. May I just interject for a moment? Hopefully you won't lose your thought.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I was going to say but they learned, your boys, valuable lessons. And that is, life isn't always the way we want it to be. And you need to learn how to just go with the flow. And honestly, that experience was great. It happens to me now. I have a cotillion, and the same thing, because you don't always get matched up perfectly. And you have to learn to be sociable. And so I think what you did was a great experience. And, we're always being chastised by our children anyway. So that's kind of par for the course of being a parent, right?
Yes. And also I want to mention, still at the top of the show, what you're doing for Mother's Day. We'll mention it again at the end. Yes. But I love this because I want to get a collection of my friends together for something like this. Tell us.
Okay. So we, I was thinking as a mom, and a lot of people are home still. We haven't had the opening up of the city yet officially. And so I was thinking about creating a virtual experience. And I heard somebody somewhere talking about that they're conducting, or people are having, these Zoom quarantines. And I thought, oh my gosh, that's a fantastic idea. Because I would always offer Mother's Day teas, and now I can do them virtually. And I thought, for those that maybe can't join for an afternoon, or didn't want to necessarily do a tea, I'm offering also what I'm calling a Cella brunch. And that's also for Mother's Day. And it's groups of up to 8 people. We cover all the dining skills. And one of the things that actually touches upon Zoom etiquette, and you can tell me if you've found this in your experience, is that sometimes if it's not organized, someone becomes kind of the ringleader, and they get the most airtime. They're talking, and they're not including everyone. And some people start to multitask or check out because they don't feel that they're being paid attention to, or they don't have their time on the floor or on camera. So what I come in and do with these teas and these brunches for Mother's Day is I organize it. So you're learning,
I like that.
You're interacting, everyone's conversing. Not one, yes, I'll be teaching, so I might have a little bit more floor time, but I want everyone to be included and feel loved. And we'll get to also honor Mom with some special toasts and, things that'll make them feel good and special on their day.
Right. And you don't have to do it on Mother's Day, obviously. I mean, you can get a package and then do it after, right?
Absolutely. This was just sort of an excuse for this weekend, but we're going to roll these out for as long as people are interested. I think a lot of people now. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Sorry. Well, I was just going to say, now that we have been quarantined, I believe a lot of people are enjoying the opportunities that have come to them virtually, where they really can do everything, operate from home if they want to. So now we have the choice of in person, hopefully soon, and online.
I have to tell you, I've enjoyed it almost more. And I'll tell you why. Because there's a lot of people, and we're trying to get together with dinner and it just doesn't work. So now, we just each have our own dinner or drink or cocktail, and we meet up. We're having so much fun with these virtual meetings. You can kind of check out when you need to. I find them to be an awful lot of fun. And we're getting groups of people together that normally wouldn't have been together. Let me ask you, you were talking about Zooming and even Zoom etiquette and people who maybe just take up too much airtime. How many people is the optimum number to have on a Zoom meeting or Zoom dinner call or whatever?
I would say keep it about 10 or less. 10. Because then everybody can exchange and really experience everything in full. When you get too many people, people start to go. You can have up to 40, I think, on camera, but then the thumbnails are so small. So you want to see everybody, and you want to have exchanges, and you don't want side conversations and people starting to chat in the chat rooms and then, conducting their own relationships. So I think keeping it intimate, just like in person, you don't have a dinner party and invite 20 people. You usually keep it smaller at about 12 or less. I think that's ideal.
That's great. And it's sometimes tough. Even you and I are doing it. It's probably more me, someone's speaking and I think they're done. And then I start talking over them and I'm like, oh no, that's tough to avoid, right? On a Zoom call. It really is.
And I literally have it as one of my points, and I'm finding myself doing it as well, which is the art of the pause. No one likes silence. And here we are on a podcast, so we especially are mindful of not being silent, but it is okay to pause. And that's so that we know when it's okay to then come in, so that we're not talking all over each other, right?
I'm giving you a moment to pause. Yeah. Well, you know, it's funny. I have to tell you, Lisa, because I'm from the news business, you know that. And you don't get no one should pause, because if you do that, then someone else will jump in with a question. So the second I hear someone taking a breath of air, I'm in, you know, whereas podcasting is a little more refined. So, point taken. That's actually very clever. Now, I've got a lot of questions for you, girl. You ready?
Yes, please go ahead.
Here we go. I mean, you know that. I've got like pages of questions because I find this so interesting.
I love it.
Pandemic protocols, we're calling them. We just touched on it a little bit. But let's talk about, I'm going to list some and then you could take over from there.
Okay.
Mindful social distancing, the handshake, somebody offers it and you don't want to, masks, body language. What if somebody does get too close to you? Back up. Now, when you tell me what's going on, I'll tell you what I've done.
Okay.
Mindful grocery shopping. Take each one as you wish, but it all is sort of in one category, right?
Yes. So I think you know, here's the thing. We need to be always noticing that we live amongst other people, right? And we want to be as courteous as possible to all. And, you know, what's happened, and it's interesting that we've heard the word protocol, and that's why I've used it in my class, because protocols is a set of guidelines that we're all supposed to follow as a nation, as a state, as a city, as a town. So there have been instituted these protocols, these guidelines that we're all supposed to be mindful of. And it's not just superfluous that we're just kind of knowing for courtesy. It's now taken a step above in terms of our safety, right? And keeping the health of, you know, the people who are most vulnerable, as well as our own health. So now we have to kind of make everything a little bit more pronounced. So noticing something before the pandemic, like personal space, where I would say to people an arm's length of distance, now it's the 6 feet. So that if you accidentally bump into someone or someone bumps into you, you say to them nicely, you know, oh, I'm so sorry. And you can step out of the way, or, oh, I believe, you know, we're still trying to be mindful of 6 feet apart in a nice way. Somebody was mentioning that and I may be dating myself, the movie, the film, oh, and of course now Body Snatchers, Invasion of the Body Snatchers, where there's a scene, I think it's Donald Sutherland's like pointing with an open mouth, you know, and really calling someone out for turning into this body snatcher. And it's happening now with people pointing fingers and calling other people out. That's the part that I want to say, really, you know, try and stay away from that. We don't want to finger point. We don't want to shame, right? We want to still give people the benefit of the doubt, which is definitely something that I always teach when it comes to this information. Just assume somebody may have, you know, accidentally forgot, and give them that moment. Don't, you know, go for the jugular.
Yeah. What if someone were to, well, I mean, what do you say? I feel like somebody tried to shake my hand and I thought, are you kidding? So I just said, you know, during this time, I'm just trying to stay away and keep my hands to myself and, you know, stay 6 or 10 feet back. And he said to me, it's kind of crazy. I said, maybe, but I'm decided to, you know, take seriously what people said. It's amazing to me how some people just, you know, aren't caring. But I guess you're right. To your point, right? Why argue with somebody? Let's just, you know, they're trying their best, I guess, or you are too, right?
Absolutely. But I will say, you know, I'm trying to imagine the image of somebody grabbing your hand without you sort of putting it out there in the first place. So what we're talking about are touchless greetings. So when we are approaching one another, keeping that maybe arm's length of distance and kind of bowing or nodding or smiling and giving that greeting gesture, but the arms are down by your sides, maybe by the seams of your clothing, which are out of sight, which will then hopefully translate to out of mind. But it'll
Or
be
behind.
hard. It will be a learning curve in terms of people remembering this is not how we're greeting right now.
You know, I've done a great deal of travel, and as you know, in many countries, they will sort of bow their head, which I always thought was lovely. You know, you're acknowledging the person, and no need to touch the person, or, you know, if you must fist pump the person. But I think for me, at least, the handshake's going to stay away for a while, because why? You know, I will put my hands behind my back, just as though, you know, they belong there, and then hopefully no one will see them at all, you know?
Right. We won't have to worry about our manicures as much, right?
No.
But yes,
oh my gosh.
I think there was also someone, you know, it's just the acknowledgement of, I see you, I know you're there, I'm greeting you, and a smile, even though it may be hidden by a mask. So that's another thing too, is if we're wearing these masks, which cover the nose and the mouth, that we really need to think about smiling more with our eyes.
Oh, I like that.
And even, you know, the idea that our eye makeup may be more pronounced. I think about sometimes I'm putting on my lip gloss in the morning, and then I'm going out and the mask is going on. And then I realize, why in the world did I just put on lip gloss? So
yeah, because it's only going to get smushed. Yeah,
exactly. So these
but you're right about that.
Exactly. These are just things we're all learning, we're adopting, and new different protocols, I guess, are being adopted on a daily basis. So it's going to take some time for us all to start feeling second nature with these different areas that we've been, you know, practicing for years and years one way, and now have to jump to another.
I also don't think it's going anywhere anytime soon. I really don't. I mean, I don't think we're suddenly just going to show up and off come the masks. And at least for myself, I'll speak for myself. I intend to sort of uphold this for a while, because, as they say, it could be a year, it could be more, until certainly until a vaccine we have a vaccine. So why not just continue to practice social distancing? And to your point, politely. Let's talk a little bit about, go ahead.
Yes, no. I'm trying to find, there was a quote about a mask that was so wonderful. I really honestly want to find it. It said, this is just a good thing for us all to think about. It's the ultimate mask of shame is not wearing one.
I like that.
Mask of shame is not wearing one. So, you know, just to think about it, have it on your person, make sure, you know, you don't leave home without it.
I think,
again, for others.
That is a perfect quote. The ultimate, I love that. That's terrific. And it's very true. We're just trying to be mindful of everything. We want this to go away. We want to flatten the curve and do everything that we can. And that's, that's being a mindful person. Let's get into a little bit about your claim to fame dining skills for all of us, okay?
Yes.
Which are often a little scary. We talked about going out to eat, right? The person who's so hungry, which would be me, because the waiter or waitress, no, my kids are always like, gosh, would you be patient? But, you know, I'm thinking, I'm at a restaurant, you know, nobody's coming. I'm just, I want some food. What do you do in a case like that? To be polite, to at least set the tone that you don't make everybody else anxious at a restaurant.
Yes. Okay. So Deborah, honestly, I'm like you. I wake up in the morning, I'm hungry. I go to bed at night, I'm hungry. I'm always trying to watch my weight, because I'm this, you know, I'm really petite, which is also good for me virtual, because you can't really see my height. But so I literally will have something fibrous before I go out to eat, because it takes the edge off. And my go-to snack is popcorn or an apple. And especially popcorn, because it's nice and salty and you get to eat a lot of it. But really, here's what people don't know about dining. This is probably the biggest thing to get about the dining experience. And that is, it's never about the food. So hear that a second. It's actually about the relationship building. So whether you're on a date, or whether you're dining with, you know, your spouse, just trying to kind of reconnect, or with the family, it's about the conversation. It's about, like, who, you know, how are we all, and who are we all, and where do we all want to go, and all of this wonderful connection, not how quickly can we stuff our face and then roll out of here in silence in the car, or back on our computers, or whatever. It's not about the food.
Okay, I'm going to remember that. I'm going to have a big, tub of popcorn before I go so that I can enjoy my guests better. That's great.
Okay, but not the movie tub of popcorn that's filled with 50 pounds of butter, the kind of Jiffy Pop 100 calorie, so because you still want to be hungry. Because when we get to the restaurant, we still want to obviously enjoy in the participation, because that is part of the dining experience. It's no fun to go to dinner with somebody who's like, oh, I'll just eat this one piece of lettuce, right?
No, that's awful, right? I'm watching people and I'm like, oh, come on. Why did we even go to dinner? Where they don't eat at all, or they just push their food around.
Exactly. That's not fun either.
That's
Moderation.
no fun at all. What about the napkin? Okay. What if you're with somebody who doesn't use their napkin, and then you just sort of nudge, or you kick, or you just give a look? Should you, or just let it go? I'm kind of a napkin freak. It kind of makes me crazy when people don't use them.
Exactly. And by the way, I mean, it's like I just happened to, I was going to reach for my napkin, but it was under some dishes. But the idea of a napkin has so many uses, right? So it's not just for wiping the mouth. It's for capturing a sneeze or a cough. It's for even covering a yawn if somebody's boring you at the table. Or for,
oh my goodness,
hopefully that doesn't happen. But there's so many wonderful uses for a napkin. And I teach all of this in my classes. And we, God forbid, want to see somebody, take their sleeve and rub it across their face. That's something hopefully only children do. But, you would expect that adults would know that a napkin lays gently in the lap, that despite what we see on television, it doesn't get tucked in to our shirts, right? So there's a lot of things people actually don't know about the napkin, especially the secret compartment in which to wipe your mouth.
Where?
And there is one.
Edges?
No. In the actual napkin itself. What part of the napkin is used just for wiping the mouth?
The center?
Versus there's a designated spot.
Tell me.
I thought I was keeping that a secret. Well, it's hard to explain, but it is on the upper right interior corner.
Oh my gosh. By the time you even count where it would be, Wait a minute.
So, yes.
Are you kidding me? The upper right interior corner, that's the part of the napkin you're supposed to use?
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
It has to be folded just so. And so that's that's what makes working with someone like myself special, because yes, you can consult a book. Yes, you can go on a YouTube for a free video, but not until you have that interpersonal experience, which, by the way, I'm totally able to recreate virtually. Can I look at you, see what you're doing, make small corrections, adjustments, show you how it's done, and then you go out into the world with perfection.
Oh yeah. And you'll just make it look like it's, second nature. That little right-hand corner or whatever. It's like, oh, it's right there. No problem at all. I would be looking for it. And if people would be like, what's the matter, Deborah? I think, hang on a minute. I'm looking for the right.
And you're hiding under the table.
What about the napkin that's always falling off your lap? Believe me, that happens to me all the time. To the point where I have to tuck it under my leg because my napkin always naturally goes flying off my leg. Then what? Is there a nice way to handle that?
Well, okay. So when we were back in the restaurant days, anything that technically falls off the table onto the floor is considered dirty. Oh. So really, unless you want to personally apply the 1 second or 2 second rule, you could just pick it up off the floor and put it back on your lap. Or you really could ask the wait staff for a brand new napkin. As long as you do it with a smile and a sweet tone of voice.
May I have a napkin, please? Yes,
exactly.
Of course.
Exactly.
How do we start a conversation? How do we end a conversation?
Okay, great question. So again, the same rules of etiquette apply whether you're online or off. So at two excellent go-to ways to initiate any conversation with anyone, anywhere. Number one is ask a question, right?
What question? Do you ask about their work, their kids, their health?
Well, you kind of look at, where you are in the conversation. If you're beginning a conversation, let's say you're at a party and you only know the host, you might say, well, how do you know the party person? Or how do you know the host this evening? Something of that nature. Another way to engage someone is just to offer a compliment. So we want it to be appropriate, but maybe you and I are meeting virtually for the first time, and I say, "Oh, Deborah, I really love the beautiful curtain you have behind you, something, whatever.
I knew that curtain. I knew that curtain would be a hit, by the way, Lisa.
The drapery, rather the drapery, I should say. But there's, fun ways to engage someone initially in a conversation. But here's the thing. When you ask someone a question, it gives them the floor. And people love to talk about themselves. So if you let someone just talk and talk and talk, that is honestly the easiest way to endear yourself.
You'll be looking at your watch and it's like,
right. Well, then you want it to be a dance and a back and forth like a tennis match, but people love to talk. And if you give them the floor, they fall in love with you instantaneously.
All right. How do you get out of the conversation? Those are the go-to ways to get in.
Okay. And so getting out of a conversation, when we are speaking to people, and this can happen virtually as well, you are full frontal. We are looking at them, hopefully with our eyes, we're smiling, we're making that full frontal contact. Our body language is facing them. When we're ready to exit, we might divert our eyes. We might twist a little bit onto an angle. We might use some parting words such as, Deborah, it's been so wonderful. Thank you so much for having me as a guest on your show. And then you know that I'm getting ready to depart. So you start with body language signals first, your nonverbals, and then you go into some nice ending pleasantries. And then you say goodbye. But one of the things I want to make sure people know, especially on Zoom, is you want to enter the conversations and exit equally gracefully. Some people dip out, and you don't want to do that. The equivalent of what we call the French leave. You want to say goodbye nicely. Let that be felt. And then depart. Do not duck and disappear, please.
It's funny. I can only use myself here because I'm laughing a little bit as you're saying things because I'm thinking, gosh, I do that wrong too. But leaving a conversation, particularly on the phone, I often think of one more thing and I'm like, well, wait a minute. You shouldn't do that, right? Should you hold the wait a minute for another time? I have to bite my tongue and not do that. It's like a big one for me. I don't say goodbye well. You know what I mean? That's a tough one.
I do. And sometimes oftentimes it's literally the thing that you meant to say for the entire conversation. And then you realize it's time to go. And you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't say the one thing that I meant to say for an hour. And so it really depends. You may want to get that in because the last words that we have in the conversation are the ones that they're left with. Right. Mm-hmm. So if you know that next piece of information is going to turn into then another hour-long conversation, you may need to hold it.
Right.
But if it's quick, get it in there.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
There's so much to learn from you. And they're just little things. And every time you say something, I think, I could have done that, or maybe I should have. And these are simple things. And they're just, I'll even call them little tricks and tips, right? That we all need to learn. Let's talk about corporate. Right? A meeting that you don't really want to go to, whether you're Zooming or you're in person. Mm-hmm. How should you enter the room? How should you exit? And how should you address the people in the room? It's a lot of questions there, but let's talk about it.
Absolutely. So one of the things that we're noticing now in this virtual reality that we're living in is that, we had things that we needed to pay attention to, everything from our presence. So that includes our body language, all of those kind of communication skills, whether they be nonverbal and verbal. But what I'm telling people now is that they need to be even more pronounced. So smiling is something that was always, right number one in terms of what I taught, because when you see someone who isn't smiling, it looks like they don't want to be there. And if you need to show up for a corporate meeting virtually, you better smile, because then it looks like you're ready. You want to sit up. You want to get dressed, put away the sweatpants, throw on some makeup, put your game face on, maybe an accessory or two, and look like you're ready. It's really, really important. And when you speak with energy in your voice, because, maybe you've been out of practice. Maybe you haven't had a lot of professional conversations in the last 2 months while we've been quarantining at home. But, so warm up your voice a little bit. All these little things will make a difference and have you stand out amongst the group.
How about this one? I got my kombucha. I also have my mug of water, which I actually spilled on the table. Do you bring that to the table when you're meeting with friends or in a meeting? I don't really think it's necessarily rude because, you have water when you're in a conference room, right? I mean, can you drink or is that not particularly the right thing to be doing?
I think you can, look, if we're having a morning meeting and everybody has their coffee, totally acceptable. If you're meeting for a virtual cocktail hour, everybody has their beverage of choice, right? So I personally don't think there's anything about that, but I wouldn't hold something up to your face that blocks you. I would still keep it to the side. Of course, I felt like I was having a little bit of an allergy attack, and I was on a call, and I did feel the need to have to use a Kleenex. And so you would probably go off camera for that rather than, blowing.
So you kind of step away a little bit.
Exactly. Turning to the side. Yes.
I want you to know how good I am. So while we were talking, my water spilled, and I just quietly asked someone to help me and just get me some napkins, because when I tell you it spilled, it's all over the table.
Oh,
that was pretty good. Pretty good, huh, Lisa?
I honestly was none the wiser.
That's smooth.
Wouldn't have known.
See what I've learned from you? I mean, that's smooth.
You are an A+ student, Deborah.
Oh, I'm so excited because I've been reading your book and watching you for so long. That's why, Lisa.
Thank you.
But you're right. There are ways to do things. I mean, it's not really that complicated if you just think of what might be logical. You know what I always say? I don't want to insult somebody. And sometimes I have to stop myself because, as I told you, I'm a girl out of Jersey, and I might not think necessarily that way. I just might want to speak first. So I am one of those people who has to stop a little bit, think, and as you talked earlier, listen, right? You have to stop and listen. Be quiet. Let's talk about that a little bit.
Yes. Okay. So there's a million things I want to say. First is you're from New Jersey and I'm from New York. So these skills are not something that I grew up with. I learned this later in life, and it's actually not my go-to behavior. They're not in my fibers, in my upbringing. Right? So manners are also something we're not born with. There's something we learn. Think of a baby that's crying at 3 a.m. Does it care if its parents want to get up? No, but it has needs. It needs the diaper changed, and it's crying, it's hungry, whatever. So we have to learn them. The manners are a muscle we need to continuously exercise. But here's your point about listening. Someone who I've been doing a lot of listening on these amazing podcasts and all kinds of Audible workshops. And one of the gentlemen I listen to, who I really love, I'll give him a plug, Phil M. Jones, talks about the words listen. If you rearrange the letters, it becomes the word silent. And when we are in conversation, think about, we have 2 eyes and only 1 mouth. So we should be really like shutting this area up. So we are supposed to be listening more than we're talking. So focusing on the other person and speaking less.
I'm afraid to say anything. It's like I'm just waiting.
Yes, go. I finished my point.
I sometimes often think it's a bit of an American thing. Maybe I'm wrong. You travel places, and I've done a good share of it. And I do feel often that in America, we just continue to speak, and it's loud, and we're move fast. And, and you go other places and they seem to understand the refinement of listening. And as you said, you're taught, but it also seems to be built more into the culture. And what you do is simple enough and should be built more into our culture. And that's why I think it's very valuable for parents to pass on these skills. Your book, by the way, is such an easy read.
Thank you.
And for those of us who are adults and still need to learn, it's easy to do, and simple enough, and it puts other people at ease. I think that's the goal, right?
Completely. I tell people that manners are twofold. So they are equally to help us feel more comfortable in our own skin, because a lot of people don't. They feel awkward when they go into social situations, or they may feel embarrassed because they don't know how to do something, or they've never been to a particular, social setting before. So they want to feel comfortable in their own skin. But equally important is learning how to put other people at ease. In fact, that's almost more important, is taking the onus off of ourselves and putting other people first. And thinking about, gosh, how would that person receive what I just said, or behave after what I just did? And that's the part where we need to take a beat, right? That's the part where you and I, from our upbringing, may not go there naturally, but that's where we can kind of maybe internally count to 3 and then kind of process and go forward with our communication.
Yeah, I definitely have always wanted to let people feel comfortable and at ease. It's just the way I grew up. There was no air, right. There was always someone talking on top of someone on top of, and that felt very comfortable. So sometimes when I'm in a room that's silent, I think, oh my gosh, there's too much silence. And it's taken a lot for me to realize that that's okay. Silence is okay. Listening is okay. And what did I end up? I ended up in the job of communicating with people. So hopefully I do an okay job and I make people feel okay.
You do. And I don't want anybody, if I can just add in here, I don't want anyone to misperceive, is that a word?
Oh, I don't think you do.
Misinterpret that you need to be a wallflower. You have to let other people have the floor. That is so not at all what I mean to convey, because I love people who are gregarious and who have fun, kind of loud personalities. I think that's, that makes you wonderful and fun to be around. So I want manners to be fun. I don't think they have to be mutually exclusive.
Nope,
you don't have to be just a wallflower.
No, well, you're not a wallflower. I mean, to be honest with you, you're a walking testament of what you're talking about. You're a lot of fun and you enjoy yourself, but just with a little bit of decorum. How's that?
I love it.
And that goes a long way, I think, for all of us. Again, I want to talk to a little bit about likability. We're talking a little bit about teenage girls. You also work with young people and likability and how to talk and in certain ways. Talk to me a little bit about that. Address that.
Well, look, I have 2 teenage daughters. Yeah. So, and part of why I got into this in the first place was because I was looking for skills, not only for myself, but also to raise confident girls who felt comfortable in their own skin. And we know that women have more of an issue in this area, I think, than men, unfortunately. So I wanted to give them something to grab onto. And I hope that I've shared with my girls the idea of making other people feel good and not always gabbing, which women can do. And so with teenage girls, when they're not thinking about how they're speaking to someone or not being inclusive or not smiling or not making another person feel good when they're around them, that all those little kind of nudges in the negative direction, they weigh on us and they make us feel really badly. And that's the kind of thing that gives people these stressors where they're turning to things, unfortunately, like substances or, God forbid, taking some drastic measure about their life, because we all want 2 things. We want to feel loved and we want to feel respected. And so if we think about that, no matter what age, but certainly as you're getting older and you're starting to develop mentally, process the way you feel and how to make others feel, then you can really think, about what you say and what you do and how it affects other people. And so teenage girls can do this. They're at a point where they can really start to manage these things. But here's the thing. If nobody points it out, then they don't know. A lot of this information is things that people don't know that they don't know, or they don't have the tools to get from one side to the other, or they might jab someone simply because they're at a loss for conversation. They don't know how to engage in other, types of conversation. So they go to something negative. I mean, there's a multitude of reasons of why people jab other people or don't make other people feel good. And often it's because they don't feel good about themselves.
It's so terribly mean. And if people realize that that's generally why, because they feel so awful about themselves, they have to impart it on somebody else and make them feel worse. And I also think sometimes they can also sense when a person is sensitive and they'll just stick it in a little harder. But so you're right. So etiquette skills are very important because you learn how to conduct yourself and what you need to take in and what you don't. You know what I love in this time of COVID, when everybody's doing everything online, your business is really almost exploding because you're an on-demand service, and what better time, right, to do etiquette training, corporate etiquette, personal etiquette, dining, which to me is like number one. 2 and 3. Posture, right? Zoom etiquette, interview skills. I actually think this is a great time to take these moments and actually give you a call and see what you offer, because you offer a myriad of services, right? Whether it's group, it could be one-on-one, which I love. Do you offer anything for the guys? We were talking about that. Like, we need it too. But, maybe a Father's Day thing, us wives can give it to them, and they could do it with a bunch of their friends. Wouldn't that be a great idea?
Yes. I mean, literally everything you're saying, I'm nodding. I want to jump out of my, screen here and give you a hug, because everything you're saying is absolutely true. So one of the wonderful things that I've discovered through this process is, because I'm here in Beverly Hills and I was always thinking I have to travel to work with others. And now I can work with anyone, anywhere in the world. And I've also been offering these live experiences, live virtual workshops. And I actually have a special offer for your listeners, if I can just maybe share that now with you for a second.
Please. So, yeah.
Because we have a lot of people coming to our kid classes, and I, of course, would love to have more children, but I also want to reach the adults. And so we have these dinners, the Dining with Decorum, that's also going to add what I'm calling the pandemic era protocols, that starts again tomorrow night. And just because I want to do something special for your listeners, I want to personally offer, if someone would like to join us and do that within the next 24 hours, you can join us tomorrow night, then I am going to give them a free personalized private session on top of the dinners that they'll be joining in the series. And all you have to do is just email me at lisa@beverlyhillsmanners.com. And then in the subject line, put, Deborah Manners, I'm in.
Yeah, we might have to wait longer than 24 hours, because sometimes when we push this out, they might not even watch it for another day or 2 or 3. So as long as you can maybe extend that for a few days, that would be great.
Maybe for a week. But if they want to get in on the dinners, they have to do that part tomorrow. But I want to share this information with everyone, because it literally all boils down to relationships.
Yeah,
manners are the glue that literally holds everything together. You want to get more money or wealth in your life. You want to be healthier. You want to have more friends. You want to get a better, kind of rise in your career. Any of these things, every single one of these things, all has to do with your relationship skills, your people skills, your social skills. And that's the content that I specialize in.
Beautiful. I love this. And again, don't forget, everybody, the Mother's Day special is fantastic, which you are extending past Mother's Day, right? Or is it best until Mother's Day? And tell me the name of that again.
So we have the Quarantine, Mother's Day Quarantine, Mother's Day Brunch. Those will happen, for this weekend, but just contact me, Lisa@BeverlyHillsManners.com. Get my attention. I will work with you. We'll figure it out. I can offer anything on your laundry list of topics.
Beautiful. I love this. And you're a friend of the show, which means when our quarantine is over, please come in studio and let's do some, one-on-one, training. How about that?
We'll do some practice and application. Absolutely.
Right? We could even invite some friends. That would be fun. In fact, or we could even do one virtually, invite a few friends or couples. I mean, I just see this exploding into anything we want, right?
Yes. And Deborah, I forgot to mention your idea about the men. I would give my eye teeth to have a group of just the men. Because I want to cover all the chivalrous behaviors and the dining and all the things. I get so many wives contacting me about, oh my gosh, my husband needs this. And ladies, contact me. We will put something together for Father's Day. It will be the best gift you could possibly give.
Please, I want to give this to my husband. I just hope he would show up. It's like,
you're gifting it to him. So it's really, there isn't a choice. And you're doing it with love and a smile, and you'll wrap it in something beautiful, and you'll offer an extra something on top of it.
I'll wrap it with a napkin. So there you go. Anyway, thank you so much, Lisa Gache of Beverly Hills Manners. You are the best. I think you are the best ever, because you've got a great sense of humor and you make this fun for kids, adults, men, women, couples. So please look her up. And I look forward to meeting you in person again soon, whenever we can. And yeah, just really appreciate it. So look her up, Beverly. What's your website again?
Yes. So first of all, thank you so much, Deborah, for having me. I've just loved every moment of this and being with you. And you're an excellent interviewer and
Thank you.
podcaster. And so it's been my pleasure. And so anybody who's listening today, please, again, feel free to email me at lisa@beverlyhillsmanners.com.
Perfect. And I hope I ended this podcast well, right? Now I'm thinking, oh my God, did I end it well? So I think we did a good job. So thank you.
You didn't duck out, so you're good. You're good in my book.
Even though I spilled an entire jug of water. You didn't even realize this during our interview.
That's so funny.
Much of it spilled onto the table, and I was very cool about it.
That's a quite large carafe.
Half of it actually went on the table, and I had to actually text my son, who was upstairs, and I said, could you get me a napkin? I think when you see the entire show, you'll try and see if you can catch where I spilled the water. Anyway, thank you very much. Thank you very much. And for being here, Lisa Gache, Beverly Hills Manners, on Deborah Kobylt Live. Please get in touch with her. It's so much fun and a lot of stuff for us all to learn. Again, you could find us on Facebook and YouTube and Instagram and anywhere you get your audio podcasts, whether it's Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple, we're out there. So please tune in. Deborah Kobylt Live. Have a great day and make somebody feel good today. Bye-bye.